Our oceans today are nowhere near as nightmare-inducing as to what came before it. Don't get it wrong, we are right to fear what lies beneath the deep abyss that covers over 70% of our world's surface, with most of it still being unexplored and more than likely with thousands of new species waiting to be discovered. With jellyfish that could kill you with a single tentacle, carnivorous sharks the size of a pickup truck, extremely intelligent whales that use tactics and problem-solving to catch unsuspecting prey, and terrifying fish that look like something from a fever dream, our oceans are filled to the brim with animals that are nothing short of terrifying. But our prehistoric oceans were another kind of terror, with creatures so bizarre and so massive that going for a fishing trip would be a death sentence, where you would probably think twice before dipping your big toe in the water, and where swimming would just simply be out of the question. When it comes to apex predators, or the king of the seas, one species has lived for so long that their overall designs have not changed for over 400 million years, which is so much time that you cannot even comprehend how long that really is. These, of course, are the Selachimorpha, our shark species. Their bodies are so perfect that they haven't found a reason to change since the Ordovician period, almost 50 million years before the first ever trees were established on our planet. With spectacular vision, powerful jaws, and a lateral line to detect small vibrations, their unique hunting styles are perfect for catching a wide variety of prey. The great white shark, also known as the white pointer, is the king of the carnivorous sharks. Their classic shape, enormous bite, and terrifying speed make them one of the most feared creatures in our seas. They can reach over 20 feet in length and weigh over 2,000 pounds, with some specimens reaching over 22 feet and 4,000 pounds. There has been the argument that the great white has been dethroned by the killer whale as the apex predator of our oceans, with many cases of these intelligent mammals hunting and consuming great whites over the last 20 years. Their frontal lobe allows them to coordinate accurate attacks that bring down prey that modern sharks couldn't even dream of. However, there was one animal that ruled our seas that is not only potentially the most aggressive oceanic hunters to ever exist, but is one of the most misunderstood apex predators on Earth. A predator so big that it was larger than a full-size school bus, with teeth the size of your hand and a bite so strong that it could crush a small car with ease. This was Otodus megalodon, the megalodon shark. Not only is it one of the most well-known ancient shark species on our planet, but it is one of the most powerful animals to ever rule our world. It lived during the Miocene and Pliocene epochs, roughly 23 million to a few million years ago, and is known almost entirely from fossil teeth and fragmentary vertebral material. One interpretation on how Megalodon appeared was that it was a robust-looking shark and may have had a similar build to the great white shark. The jaws may have been blunter and wider than the great white, and the fins would have also been similar in shape, though thicker due to its size. It may have had a pig-eyed appearance, in that it had small, deep-set eyes. Another interpretation is that Megalodon bore a similarity to the whale shark, Rhynchodon typus, or the basking shark, Cetohynus maximus. The tail fin would have been crescent-shaped, the anal fin and second dorsal fin would have been small, and there would have been a caudal keel present on either side of the tail fin, on the caudal peduncle. This build is common in other large aquatic animals, such as whales, tuna, and other sharks, in order to reduce drag. The head shape can vary between species, as most of the drag-reducing adaptations are toward the tail end of the animal. It was suggested in 2024 that Megalodon had a more elongated body plan than previously thought, based on comparing the proportions of the neurocranium and caudal fin relative to its trunk to those of other laminforms, excluding goblin sharks and thresher sharks. They estimated that the maximum body length of Megalodon would have been significantly longer than previously published estimates. Size estimates have varied because we almost never find whole skeletons of fossil sharks, since their skeletons are cartilage and don't preserve well. Scientists estimate total length by comparing Megalodon teeth and rare vertebral fragments to living large sharks. The commonly quoted range for their size is about 33 to 59 feet, with many popular figures centering around 40 to 50 feet for very large adults. These come from scaling relationships between tooth size and body length based on great white and other lamnid sharks. The maximum outlier estimates through some recent detailed reassessment suggests Megalodon could have reached even larger sizes, as much as 65 to 80 feet for the largest individuals. If certain new body shape reconstructions and different scaling assumptions are used, that same study also proposed Megalodon may have been more elongated than previous reconstructions. These high-end numbers are controversial and depend strongly on which living shark analogues and which fossil elements you accept for scaling. However, the safest size statement is that it was by far the largest predatory shark we know of, clearly much larger than modern great whites, but the precise maximum length is still debated and depends on the methods used. Its large size may have been due to climatic factors and the abundance of large prey items, and it may have also been influenced by the evolution of regional endothermy or mesothermy, which would have increased its metabolic rate and swimming speed. The otodontid sharks have been considered to have been ectotherms, so on that basis, Megalodon would have been ectothermic. However, the largest contemporary ectothermic sharks, such as the whale shark, are filter feeders, while lamnids are regional endotherms, implying some metabolic correlations with a predatory lifestyle. Large fossilized tungstones, or glossopetrae, now understood to be fossil shark teeth, were known and collected in many cultures for centuries. Pliny the Elder and other ancient writers described strange tungstones. In modern science, large fossil megalodon teeth began to be described and collected in the 18th to 19th centuries and eventually recognized as shark teeth rather than petrified tongues or dragon relics. Over the 19th and 20th centuries, paleontologists refined the taxonomy and placed the species in various genera as more comparative work was done. The tooth record and occasional vertebral finds are what underpin our entire understanding. Megalodon had a cosmopolitan distribution in warm and temperate seas worldwide. Fossil teeth have been found on every continent that borders the world's oceans: North and South America, Europe, Africa, Asia, and Australia, typically in shallow marine deposits and continental shelf sediments of Miocene to Pliocene age. That global record indicates Megalodon was a top predator across most of Earth's seas during its heyday. Megalodon teeth can measure over 7.1 inches in slant height or diagonal length and are the largest of any known shark species, implying it was the largest of all macropredatory sharks. In 1989, a nearly complete set of Megalodon teeth was discovered in Saitama, Japan. Another nearly complete associated Megalodon dentition was excavated from the Yorktown formations in the United States and served as the basis of a jaw reconstruction of Megalodon at the National Museum of Natural History. Based on these discoveries, an artificial dental formula was put together for Megalodon in 1996. Megalodon had a very robust dentition and had over 250 teeth in its jaws, spanning 5 rows. It is possible that large individuals had jaws spanning roughly 6.6 feet across. The teeth were also serrated, which would have improved efficiency in cutting through flesh or bone. The shark may have been able to open its mouth to a 75-degree angle, though a reconstruction at the USNM approximates a 100-degree angle. In 2008, a team of scientists led by S. Rowe conducted an experiment to determine the bite force of the great white shark, using a 8.2-foot-long specimen, and then isometrically scaled the results for its maximum size and the conservative minimum and maximum body mass of Megalodon. They placed the bite force of between 13,000 to 200,000 pounds per square inch, depending on the surface area of the jaw, which is so high that a Megalodon could quite effortlessly crush a pickup truck in a single bite, making them the strongest jaws of any animal on Earth. Though sharks are generally opportunistic feeders, Megalodon's great size, high-speed swimming capability, and powerful jaws, coupled with an impressive feeding apparatus, made it an apex predator capable of consuming a broad spectrum of animals. Dental microwear of Mediterranean megalodon specimens from the Miocene shows that, like modern great white sharks, it had a highly generalist diet that would have included invertebrates, marine mammals, marine reptiles, bony fish, and other elasmobranchs. Direct fossil evidence indicates that megalodon preyed upon many cetacean species, such as dolphins, small whales, cetotheres, squalodontids, sperm whales, bowhead whales, and rorquals. Sharks often employ complex hunting strategies to engage large prey animals. Great white shark hunting strategies may be similar to how megalodon hunted its large prey. Megalodon bite marks on whale fossils suggest that it employed different hunting strategies against large prey than the great white shark. One particular specimen, the remains of a 30-foot-long, undescribed Miocene baleen whale, provided the first opportunity to quantitatively analyze its attack behavior. Unlike great whites, which target the underbelly of their prey, megalodon probably targeted the heart and lungs, with their thick teeth adapted for biting through tough bone, as indicated by bite marks inflicted to the rib cage and other tough bony areas on whale remains. Furthermore, attack patterns could differ for prey of different sizes. Fossil remains of some small cetaceans, for example cetothers, suggest that they were rammed with great force from below before being killed and eaten, based on compression fractures. There is also evidence that a possible separate hunting strategy existed for attacking raptorial sperm whales. A tooth belonging to an undetermined 13-feet physetoroid, closely resembling those of Acrophyzeta, discovered in the Nutrien Aurora phosphate mine in North Carolina, suggests that a megalodon may have aimed for the head of the sperm whale in order to inflict a fatal bite, the resulting attack leaving distinctive bite marks on the tooth. While scavenging behavior cannot be ruled out as a possibility, the placement of the bite marks is more consistent with predatory attacks than feeding by scavenging, as the jaw is not a particularly nutritious area for a shark to feed or focus on. The fact that the bite marks were found on the tooth's roots further suggest that the shark broke the whale's jaw during the bite, suggesting the bite was extremely powerful. The fossil is also notable as it stands as the first known instance of an antagonistic interaction between a sperm whale and an otodontid shark recorded in the fossil record. The statistical analyses of the fossil record suggest the species' extinction was likely by the mid-Pliocene, with some models estimating an extinction date around 3.5 million years ago. The key point: Megalodon went extinct well before the Pleistocene ice ages and long before humans arrived on most oceanic shelves. Most paleontologists favor a combination of factors rather than a single smoking gun. Climate cooling and oceanographic change in the late Miocene to Pliocene altered sea temperatures, currents, and habitats, and would have affected the distributions and abundances of whales and other large prey. If Megalodon was adapted to warmer, productive shelf ecosystems and to feeding on abundant medium-sized whales, cooling and the geographic redistribution of whales could have reduced its food base. The extinction or decline of many small to medium baleen whale lineages may have removed an important prey resource. Large-bodied, possibly mesothermic or partially endothermic marine predators can be especially vulnerable to range fragmentation when climate zones shift. Megalodon's large size increased its absolute food needs, making population recovery harder when prey availability dropped. The rise and ecological diversification of other marine predators, including early macropredatory odontocetes and possibly the ancestors of modern large lamnids, may have contributed to pressure on resources, although competition is often presented as a secondary factor to climate and prey decline. But what if the extinction of this apex predator was non-existent and this gargantuan shark were to be patrolling our oceans today? Although this is necessarily speculative, we can make reasoned, practical points. As a gigantic apex predator, Megalodon would be at the top of marine food webs and would require enormous quantities of high-energy prey, large whales, large teleosts, pinnipeds where present. Modern whale populations are far lower than ancient Pliocene levels because of historical whaling and habitat changes, so sustaining viable Megalodon populations would be difficult without abundant prey. Its presence would strongly influence the behavior and distribution of whales and other large marine animals, likely creating broad landscapes of fear and concentrating scavenging opportunities for other predators. Where the human safety industry is concerned, Megalodon would pose a real, non-negligible threat to boats, swimmers, surfers, and coastal communities. Large sharks attack and injure humans occasionally today, and a shark many times larger would have both the capacity to injure large vessels and to be deadly to people in the water. Even if rare, encounters would have high consequences. Fisheries, mariculture, and ocean industries would face major challenges: loss of commercial stocks, risks to crew and gear, and the need for protective measures. Coastal tourism and recreation would be profoundly affected. Emergency response and public safety infrastructures would need to change dramatically. Protecting both a megafaunal predator and the ecosystems that support it would require huge protected marine habitats and strong international cooperation. Given Megalodon's presumed life history, slow growth, late maturity, large energetic needs, it would be extremely vulnerable to overexploitation, exactly the traits that make modern large sharks, like great whites and makos, as vulnerable. The conservation challenge would be orders of magnitude larger. However, thankfully, the fossil record shows Megalodon disappeared millions of years ago, and there is no credible, verifiable evidence of a modern living population. No modern carcasses, no verifiable bite marks on recent whale bones attributable uniquely to Megalodon, and no clear genetic or observational records. The ocean is vast, but a breeding population of large apex predators leaves ecological and physical traces, like regular prey mortality patterns, carcasses, distinctive tooth finds in recent sediments, which we would have detected. In short, scientifically, there is no support for Megalodon surviving to today, and that is probably for the best. Until next time, on Wild Wisdom.